y'all. I just wanted to get on here and talk about being careful of what you come into covenant with, knowingly and unknowingly. When I was out in the world, I had a friend. She was, started playing in dark stuff and doing little stuff like Ouija boards, all types of stuff like that. And I remember one time they got a Ouija board and they were trying to get me to do it. This is when I was out in the world and doing all types of stuff. I was, not living for God. And I remember my spirit just wouldn't let me do it. I was like, I'm not about to be playing with Ouija boards and all that stuff. So they started doing it, and there was a baby with me in the room, which was the girl's child. I literally ran out with that baby in my hand and ran out the door and sat there until they were done, because I was like, and now that I think about it, you never know if that baby is the one to change that family, because I didn't subject it to that. That baby may be the one to change the generations of her family. But I remember the friend ended up, which is crazy, I don't know what she dabbled in or whatever happened, but she ended up getting possessed with demons. And I remember, one time I was over there with an ex that I was with, and I was over there, and when they walked in, she just couldn't stop looking at me, and she had this real look of disgust on her face. And at the time I didn't realize it, but God revealed to me that was because the spirit that was in her didn't like me, because it seen where I would be in God. So the demon ended up suppressing, or something happened, which it still is in there, but the demon ended up suppressing. So we got back cool and stuff like that. At the time, I just didn't have the understanding of it. But I remember she ended up getting a tattoo of, they say they call them like the Illuminati signs and stuff like that. But she put initials of everybody in that tattoo, and she put mine in there. Now at the time I didn't realize it was a covenant. I was just like, oh, okay, she's just showing love. But that was really a covenant that I had came into agreement with that I didn't realize. So excuse me, when I had ended up following God, getting back in church, and I had found my way back into the house of God. Sorry, y'all, my phone just keep going crazy. I had found myself back into the house of God, right? So once that happened, once I had wholeheartedly started walking with God and I was obedient to his word, he told me to get out the marriage that I was in. I was still she was like my only friend from the world that I would still communicate with. She was my only friend from that time that I would still communicate with, because, I didn't have nobody. Everybody else was pretty much moved around or cut off, stuff like that. So that was the only person I would communicate with, and I thought I could help her and help her through her stuff. So I started talking to her about God, you gotta get your life together, all you gotta do is change, all you gotta do is do this. I started to really talk to her about that stuff, thinking I was helping. But I remember one time she had called me and she was like, do you believe in psychics? Do you believe in psychics or whatever? And I was like, no. I'm like, they talk to familiar spirits. That's not the spirit of God, you know? And she was like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, like that. And I was like, yeah, I don't play that or whatever. So once that happened, God started to really like she started calling me, just kept calling me. And at this time, I was in isolation with God. God was literally having me in isolation. Like, he didn't want me, like, he was working on me with the understanding, the knowledge, all of that, revealing stuff to me. So he had me in isolation. And I was like, you know, something in my spirit just said, don't answer. You know, Holy Spirit was telling me not to answer the phone no more. But then, like, on New Year's, I had prayed for her and stuff at church. And I had just, you know, I haven't been answering the phone. I was consecrated in God. So I told her, I was like, I texted her and I was like, I prayed for you today at church. I was like, I just wanted to let you know that. And she called me right away. And when she called me, what she started talking about was an ex that had passed away that was really abusive to me. And the vision and the thing that she had, it was confusion in it. And I was like, once I hung up, I was like, all right, I gotta go, because my spirit just wasn't right with it. Once that happened, I was like, something ain't right with that. And then God told me, like, it's confusion. And I was like, God's not the author of confusion. So once that happened, I kind of stopped talking. God was still working on me. But my ex-husband ended up coming to the house one day to see his son, and was real, like, over emotional, over all types of crying and stuff like that. And he was like, why would your friend look at your life through a psychic? And I said, what are you talking about? I said, I never told you that. And he was like, but why would she do that? He was like, you did tell me that. I said, I never told you that she looked at my life through a psychic. I never told you that. So that was the Holy Spirit revealing that to me, and used him to reveal that to me. So I reached out to my pastor, and I was like, you know, I just feel like God's guiding me, and, you know, this is what's going on. And he was like, cut it off. So I was like, cut it off. I'm not playing them games. You know, I got a son. I'm not playing them games. You know, you trying to suppress me. And, you know, all the things that are coming to my mind now, it makes sense, because when I was actually, like, married, like, it was a lot of witchcraft, you know, demonic spirits that was around, you know. It was just a lot of stuff going on. Flies always consistently in my house, you know. So it was like, and he used to go over to her house and clean her carpet for her, and used to do stuff. So I don't know, you know, there could have been spells, witchcraft, all types of stuff placed on them to suppress, you know. So and, you know, spirits transfer. So, you know, once things started going crazy in my marriage, you know, that just opened my eyes. Like, God opened my eyes, like, this is what was going on. I got a story about that too, where I had you know, really came in contact with that demon, you know. So after that, I had cut it off, and I just blocked it, because I was being obedient. You know the word, I was being obedient. And so then a few weeks later, she inboxed me on Facebook. And I was just like, well, it's Facebook. She could sit there. God would not let me do it. He put a burning in me to block that. So I blocked it. The time that I blocked it, I instantly felt relief. So what I'm trying to say is just make sure you know what you're coming into covenant with. Because you could come into covenant with something unknowingly, because you're in the world and you in disobedience. And then at that time, I was in isolation and I cut it off. I had to fight in warfare so many demonic spirits, so many things that were trying to come. My dreams was just always me getting attacked in the spirit by demons. Like, I was up 1, 2, 3, 4, like breaking covenants, y'all. So always remember to test the spirit, and always remember that Don't come into covenant with stuff, and you may not know that you came into covenant, but when God brings you out of it, he will reveal that to you, and you're gonna have to fight those demons that you are in covenant with. You're going to have to fight the things that you may not have realized you came in covenant with, but you did. So I just wanted to get on here, just watch the things that you come in covenant with, and make sure to take heed. And that could be unintentionally and intentionally, but God will always bring you out if you follow him.